everybody. Matt Fouch here, Keller Williams Commonwealth here in the Lake Cumberland area. If you need to buy or sell here in the area, you can call or text me at 859-409-8369. If you're just doing a home search, you just want to look at property around Lake Cumberland, you can go to LakeCumberlandHomeFinder.com and you can start your search there and see everything that we have that's available and see what might fit your home search. All right, so doing a market update. We're going to look specifically at Pulaski County. Of course, I work all over the Lake Cumberland area. A lot of the areas around the lake are going to be pretty comparable in data, but we're going to focus specifically on Pulaski County and the numbers. I don't want to go into all the information over the last 4 years or whatever. I actually started this video and I just started talking about it, and I looked up and it was like 5 minutes in. I haven't even gotten to the data yet. So let me just give you a brief, I restarted the video. Let me give you a brief overview real quick. Of course, prices shot up coming out of COVID. They were historically low interest rates. Now we're back to what is a normal type of an interest rate, 6%, 6.5% on a mortgage rate. Prices have not dropped significantly, but they have leveled out to where we're now back at like a normal appreciation year over year of like a 3%, 4% appreciation year over year. That's what we saw in 2024. 2025 though is shaping up to be about the same, but maybe sales prices maybe come down a little bit. So we're going to look at that data for the year over year and kind of see how we're comparing to 2024. Overall, it's pretty comparable. It's pretty similar to what happened last year. And let me tell you where we're at. So here in Pulaski County, we are over 6 months of inventory. So every month we are listing more homes than what we're selling. So there are more sellers than there are buyers in this market. Now what that means for sellers is that you need to bring a strong property to the market. You need to bring a property that is market ready, that has maybe you've done some repairs, you've done some updates. You're doing all those things to bring a market ready property to the market. And because the buyers are being picky, they're being selective on what they put their offers in on, and they can because we have over 6 months of inventory. So we need to make sure when we're listing, when we're selling a property, that we're bringing a market ready home as much as we possibly can. That also means that as a seller, you have to be very strategic and very thoughtful for price when you bring it to the market. What we see a lot of times right now in this current market is that sellers are overpricing their homes according to what the data is telling us that your home should sell for. And so I'll hear this pretty much every day from somebody that I'm talking to about real estate, and they'll say, it looks like home prices are coming down because I see a whole lot of homes that are dropping their prices. And that's accurate in that homes are dropping their prices. The part of that folks don't typically dig into is that the homes that are dropping their prices are normally almost across the board. It's homes that started out 10, 15, 20% above what the comps and the data was telling them the home would sell for. So when you start high as a seller, you end up having to bring your price down to where the market's at in order to get a contract and maybe get some showings on the property. When you start too high, no showings or very few showings, very limited showings, and definitely no offers because you're over what the buyers in the current market are willing to pay for the home. And so those are the ones that you'll see sit for longer periods of time and end up doing multiple price drops to get it down to where the market is. Now, as buyers, it kind of gives you a little bit of an opportunity to see more homes and to be a little more picky about what it is that you are looking for, because there are multiple options in the market that are active and available. So let's get into some of the data. I've already shared one data point with you all, is that we have over 6 months of inventory. And so every month, I'm looking at the numbers here on the screen while I'm talking to you. Every month So the data starts from September 2024 through August of 2025 is what I'm looking at. And every month we have, in Pulaski County, we have listed more homes than we have sold. And so every month, for the most part, you see that number of available active listings continue to creep up. It continues to go up. And so, like I said, we are over 6 months of inventory. The sold to list ratio. Now, this is the number. This is always an interesting number to me that I look at. This is the percentage number that you can expect to get on average from the number you get at closing as a percentage of the number that you're asking. Okay? So the sold price compared to the list price. And the sold price is coming in at around 91% of what the list price is. So what that data is telling us is that sellers on average are having to take a number that's 9% under their list price. So they're having to come down nearly 10% from their ask price in order to get the deal done for a buyer to actually buy the home. So keep that in mind when you're looking at selling your property. If you overprice it, or even if you're just a little bit above, you're still probably going to have to come down to 91% of that ask price in order to get a contract on the home. Now, if you list the home at the market price or a little bit under, you're going to get a contract right away. Even this sold to list ratio is telling us that, you know, you're having to come down anyways if you list high, and then you're building up all those days on market. The average days on market in Pulaski County is, over the last year or so, it's been anywhere in that like 70 to 90 days on market. That's the average days on market. I'm going to look now at the year to date. And these are always interesting numbers to talk about, because this gives us the information of what's been happening in our local market, of what's actually sold. And we can look at that data and then we can say, okay, here's what's happening. So these are the units in Pulaski County that has actually sold year to date. So up until the end of August in 2024, we had sold 453 units. This year, we have sold 472 units. So we are 4% ahead of what we sold last year at this point this year. So we are selling more this year, but we've also listed more this year than what we listed last year. So again, it goes back to that same data of, you know, that number is climbing. So like, for instance, the active listings numbers from year to date 24 to 25 were up nearly 8% in active listings of where we were at this time last year. So even though we've sold 4% more, we're up 8% more in active listings. So again, those numbers keep going up. We're kind of in that, since we're in that 6 month range, it's trending towards a buyer's market where the buyers have the majority of the leverage in the deal. But for right now, we're kind of like middle of the road. It's neither a buyer or seller market. It's kind of right in that 6 month range where it could go either way depending on the property. I'm assuming most everybody watching understands the difference between average and median. And so when you want to look at averages and medians, the average, when you look at that, sometimes the outliers really make an impact on the average price. And so typically we look at the median, because the median price tells us at this price, half of the deals was higher and half of the deals was lower. And so I'm looking at the median sales price in Pulaski County for year to date. So in 2024, at the end of August, our median sales price was $240,000. In 2025, year to date, the median sales price is $235,500. So it's down almost 2% on the median sales price. So that is a number that we definitely need to take into consideration. If we're seeing median sales prices come down 2%, Maybe we end the year down a little bit over 2024. Looking at the average price, we're actually up a little bit on the average this year compared to last year at this point. And I was digging a little bit deeper into that, and it looked like part of that was because we've sold more homes that are in that 500,000 plus range this year than what we did last year. So again, back to those outliers on the average. The outliers is kind of bringing that price up, but the median is right at 2% under. So it's interesting to look at this data, look at this information for our county, for our area. So I just want to say again, if you're watching this in the position of a buyer, this data is telling you that while there are not a ton of options out there, there are definitely more options than you would have found in 2022, 2023, because in 22, we probably had 30 days of inventory available. Well, now we're at 6 months of inventory available. So you've kind of got more leverage as a buyer. You definitely have more leverage than 21 or 22 for sure. And you can be a little more picky because you have more options available to you. And what this tells us as a seller, if you're watching this and you're a seller that's saying, hey, I'm got a property I'm thinking about selling, what's the market look like? What this data tells us is that if you want to sell your home, if you actually want to sell it. Now listen, some sellers come from the perspective of, I don't have to sell my home. If I can get my price, I'll get it. If not, I'll just let it sit on the market and I'll stay here, or I'll let it go off the market and I'll try again in a couple of years. That's a different perspective than somebody that's going into a situation saying, I have a home, I need to sell this home. What that tells you as an individual that's a seller that needs to sell, you need to put your price, and let's talk frankly here. Your price does not need to reflect if you need to sell. It does not reflect all the things you've done to the home. You can't add every single dollar you've spent over your time of ownership to the value of the home. For instance, putting in a fence. If you spend $25,000 on a fence on your property, that does not automatically make your home $25,000 more value. We can't just tack that onto the value of the home. If you go and spend, for instance, my family, we put in an above ground pool and a deck on it. Just because I spent the cost on that, what the dollar amount was, I don't then get to add that number directly onto the top of my home price and say, okay, all of a sudden it's now worth that amount more. Your HVAC system. Listen, the HVAC system is huge, right? It's part of the functionality of the home. But if you have to spend $12,000 on an HVAC system, that doesn't necessarily mean that your home is worth $12,000 more, because that spend is on a function of the home that needs to be in good working order. And we know that at some point in time, that HVAC system is going to go out because it doesn't last for eternity. So these are, when you're looking at selling your home, these are things you need to take into consideration. Of some things that you spend money on in your home are just sunk cost in home ownership and do not add that amount of money to the value of what your home is worth. Adding a certain type of flooring because you like that type of flooring does not necessarily mean that what you spend on that adds to the value, but it gives you the enjoyment of your home looking the way you want it to look while you own it. So taking all of that into consideration, when we're pricing a home and you need to sell, you have to look at the data of what the market is telling you the home is actually worth to the current buyers in the current market who have a pre-approval or proof of funds in hand that say, I need to buy a home, I want to buy your home, and here's what I'm willing to pay for it. So we got to make sure that we're looking at the data and coming to a realistic price point for what the buyers in this current market are willing to pay. At the end of the day, an appraisal, a comp from a realtor, what you see as the Zestimate on Zillow, when you add what you paid for it plus all the stuff you spent over the years of home ownership and you start adding all that onto it and you say this is the number that it's worth, None of that, all those are just guesses and what I want to get and what we think it might sell for and a range that it might sell in. But at the end of the day, what your home's actual value is worth is what a buyer is willing to give you for your home in the current market. So just some information for you today on the real estate market here in Pulaski County, and some thoughts for you if you're a buyer or seller as you start to navigate this. If you want to talk further about selling your home, what your home may be valued at, if you want additional information on the market, I can give you more data. If you're a data person and you're like, hey, I want all the information, all the data I can get, I can send this to you. You can look over it. It's really neat to look at this stuff. In my opinion, some people don't want the data. They're just like, hey, just tell me, will my home sell or will it not? So every home will sell, but it's got to be priced at the right price. 3 reasons a home doesn't sell: bad location, there's something majorly wrong with the home, or it's priced too high. Only 3 reasons a home doesn't sell. So take those things into consideration when you're looking at your property and considering selling it. 859-409-8369. Give me a call. We can chat about the market, your home, or start you on a home send for new listings that might fit what you're looking for. Go check out some homes and see if someplace here in the Lake Cumberland area might be the perfect home for you. Again, go to LakeCumberlandHomefinder.com to start your home search, and we'll chat again soon. Y'all have a great day.